Okay, we are in Inglewood, California, and we are ready for our Educate Me Part 3. So I'm going to put this on the table and prop it up so it stands. And basically, we're just going to have a discussion about the pros and cons of charter schools. You can also talk about your experience with public schools, what is working, what is bad, what are you seeing as a result of the introduction of charter schools, and how it impacts the schools around you and the neighborhoods and everything else. So feel welcome to just jump in and share your stories.
I don't. Well, and let me start with full disclosure, because I always believe in full disclosure and transparency. I had actually applied to work at charter schools. I'm a public school teacher. I believe in public schools. And I had to ask myself, because I feel a lot of time, I feel guilty about anything that's not public school. Like my daughter's in private school right now. And I kind of felt guilty about that. And then applying to charter schools. And I felt guilty about that because as a public school employee, I know the importance of public school. I know what public schools can do and how I'm a product of public school, K-12. I think I've done pretty well for myself. But public schools today, they just have issues. And sometimes I have felt that non-public school was just the best case scenario for either my family or myself, and that's why I applied to work at charter schools this last 2 years, although I did not gain employment with them. But I have applied. I have been looking to leave because it's frustrating. The overall system is broken, and for my personal sanity, I felt like it was time for me to go. But 20 years in, I can't waltz into another public school system because now I'm the low man on the totem pole. I've lost all my seniority. I've lost my years of service. They may give me 10, that's standard, but I have 20 years. I'm going to be starting over. My life depends on my salary, mine and my husband. So it's not, it wasn't an easy decision to look outside, but I looked into administration outside of the public school system and the charter school system. So I am not completely against charter schools or non-public schools because, again, like I said, my daughter's in private school, but that I felt was the best place for her. And this is another whole can of worms about school systems, but, emphasis is placed on certain categories. And if you're not in that category, you're just kind of out of luck. So she's not an English language learner. She's not, I feel like we are, but we're not low socioeconomic status. She's not a Black male. She's an intelligent African-American female. That is nobody's special interest but mine, because she's mine. But, and so right now, the public school system is not geared for her. It does not have what she needs. And working in public school, I have seen it. What would happen in public school in most cases is that when she's finished and she understands what she's doing, the teacher would say, "Great, go help Becky."
Mm-hmm.
So my child has to become a teacher to someone else because she understands the content. And I get it because I've said it too. When you can teach it to someone else, you get it. So I get that. There is a component to that. But what's happening is they need to do something with her because we have to teach to the special interest. We have to make sure we get our ELD time, and we have to make sure whatever other things they have mandated. But unless they're in the GATE program, which tends to not be GATE, what's for her? Where's her challenge? Where's her push? Where's her extension? She becomes the teacher. The smart kids become the teacher, or they get worksheets to do to stay quiet and entertained.
So you mentioned that you were looking at other schools, and you talked about losing your tenure if you left. Explain that a little bit more. Are you referring to leaving your district for another district?
Yes.
How does that work?
You get years of service in your district each year that you're there. And then in the public school system, after 2 years probationary, then the third year, you're a tenured teacher. So you have all of your rights and your protections. You can't get fired willy-nilly. You have to go through whatever system your district sets up with you or sets up with your union. And if I leave, all that time that I have put in goes away, except for 10 years. They will accept 10 years of my service. So that means no, I'm sure there's like a new hire probationary process, but as far as my teaching credential and things like that probationary process, I wouldn't have to go through again because I have had years of service. So.
And wouldn't it affect your salary also?
Yes. It absolutely does.
Because your salary would be on a certain scale. And if you were 20 years as opposed to 10 years, that's a big difference in pay.
But you said you couldn't get fired. Actually, the union only protects your due process.
Right.
Not the fact that you couldn't get fired.
Right. True. I know games that they play in my district, so technically I would not get fired, but.
Okay. Well, if the principal
that's another
did their job and wanted you out, you would be out.
Yeah.
So, what were the charter schools offering that compensation and just work-life balance and everything else? How did their offering compare to what you have with public schools?
Honestly, from what I've seen and heard, it probably would have been a little bit worse. A lot of times charter schools don't have unions, and so salary is what they say it is. They are, again, mainly because they don't have unions, so you are at the will of your employer. Some charter schools, they mandate that you give out your cell phone number and you have it available until 9 o'clock p.m. They can call you until 9 o'clock and you better answer your phone. I know the KIPS school here around the way in LA, summer school is mandatory. So who's teaching? Oh, well, that would be the teachers now, wouldn't it? So there goes your summer vacation. And I don't know if it's all students, but I know because I was looking into it to see if that's where I wanted to put Jaden. And I was like, oh, but she doesn't need mandatory summer school. And just like I think teachers need a break over the summer, kids need a break over the summer. And especially now, we ride them so hard all year, they need a break. And her best friend is in summer school. And so at first she was like, Mom, can I go to summer school? I'm like, no. For one thing, it's expensive. But for another thing, no. You need a break because she works hard. No. You know how kids are. But, she works hard at her school. I think she needs downtime. So she's doing a week of volleyball camp and she's doing theater camp. So it's still enriching, but it's not taxing her brain because we work them. We work us. And I think everybody just needs that downtime, work-life balance, because we are on call, even if we're not on call. And one of my students said it best because I went in on a Monday morning as usual, and I said, "Oh, I saw something that made me think of you, and I wanted to show it to you." And one of my students said, "You were always thinking about us," and it was just a very innocent comment. But then I realized you kind of are. It's hard sometimes to turn it off. I have to turn it off. But it gets difficult. And so that break, that hard break, that summertime where I'm just, I need that time. Kids need that time. So and it's that balance, how to stay passionate about what I do. I need to be away from it and think about it and be excited to get back to it instead of dreading like, oh my God, is this still going? I don't know. I think I talked all the way around the world, but. Want to jump in?
You want to jump in?
I was one of those people who was very excited about charter schools, the idea of it at the beginning. I went to public school for a little while. I finished up in private school as a kid. I loved private school. I love private school for my children, but not just because it's private. We choose for them to go to private school because of our faith. So they go to a school that's based on our faith. But also, I like the idea that we have a choice. So when charter schools came out, the idea that each school would have a charter and that me as a parent would have a choice on where I could put my child sound like great. Because I grew up my family struggled financially. So it was a big sacrifice for my mom to put us in private school. So I was thinking, wow, isn't this nice? Now kids can choose, parents can choose where to send their child, and they don't have to have the financial burden that my parents had. But that doesn't seem to be what charter schools became. My experience with charter schools were the fact that, first of all children weren't accepted or allowed to go to the charter school. They were able to pick and choose the students that went there. The way that they choose locations was another thing that was a big issue with me. I worked at a school when I was working on my administrative credential, shadowing a principal, and she had to split her school in half and give half of her campus to a charter school so there were two schools on the same campus. Mm-hmm. And you would think, okay, that's fine. Their school is over here and their school is over here. But charter schools have the opportunity, like I said, to choose who they want. They don't have the same monitoring. It may seem like they do, but they don't have the same monitoring that we have. They can create this idea, this illusion of something grand that's going on at the school, and then the public school that's attached to it loses its students. And it loses the students first, and then all of a sudden those students get kicked out or whatever happened, and then those students come back to the original school, but now you have all the students that are troubled. You don't have an equal playing field at your school, where at our schools we accept any student from anywhere. You come, you're in our district, you're in our area, we accept you. Even if you're not in our area, we accept you and we teach you. Even if it's 2 weeks before school is out, you are welcome to come, sit down, and we will teach you. And my experience with charter schools is not that way. I've seen firsthand receiving these kids from these charter schools, children who should have had IEPs, children who have all these traumatic situations that we deal with in a public school that weren't receiving any help, and then they just push them back onto the regular public school system, and we help. But I don't think we're talking about apples and apples here. I think it's just two totally different things. And then a lot of times, I was on a board with the LA County where you go around and you visit California distinguished schools and you kind of grade them or whatever. A lot of times you're just assessing the charter or that one thing that they say that they're known for. So if I have a writing charter, we're going to focus on that writing program. So when I come and observe, I'm just looking at writing. I'm not looking at writing, math, reading, all these things, the school as a whole. We're just assessing the charter. And if the charter, whatever their charter is, if they're performing well in that area, then people say it's a success. But it may not be a success because they're not judging, if we're not judging things from the same perspective. And the other issue I have with charter schools is just I have a lot of friends that move from public schools to charter schools to teach. And a lot of them are out of a job. I know a friend that the charter school just closed. I don't know if it's opening back. They told her like May, let everybody go in May. They said they had to reapply over the summer and they may have a job in the fall. But her understanding is that they just did that because they're supposed to get this like summer pay. So instead of paying them over the summer or keeping their insurance over the summer, they stopped. They just let everybody go so they can keep that money for a while. And then they're going to rehire everybody back in the fall. And I just had breakfast with another friend that's at a charter school, and she thinks her school is closing. She's pretty sure it's closing. Nobody's telling her. Not giving her clear information. She doesn't know if she's going to have a job or not. She doesn't have a union. She doesn't have anybody that she can talk to, say, at the district level or go talk to HR, because it's a charter school that is separate. So they have schools all across the country. So you have to find like your main location. Your regional place. And she even told me that they're trying to rebrand. I guess there was some law or something that passed at the state level that they're closing a lot of charter schools. And she said that her boss or whoever told her that they don't want to be called by the mother name or whatever the big charter school name is. They want all the branding to change to just be like that one separate school. Mm-hmm. So if they close that charter school, that's one thing. That's just one school.
Right, it doesn't turn it.
Yeah, it doesn't do the whole brand. So I'm thinking, okay, well, why do you have to worry about that? You're a teacher. Why is this your concern? Where's the administration about branding and making sure you get paid and making sure that your communication is right? But there's no sense of that for her. There's nowhere for her to go. And she's not even sure she's going to have a job. She was talking to me about maybe having a job. And I just think that sometimes there are these romantic views of charter schools, and I had them too, of what it would be like to teach there and what it would be like, to have a choice to choose where my child goes and all those things. But a school is a school. It's as good as the administration that's running it and the system that you have and the teachers that are teaching there and the parents. And if that's anywhere. That school can be in Saudi Arabia for all I care. The same thing matters. And when you start messing with that formula, if you're weak in any of those areas, you're just going to have an issue. But my biggest concern is that we're playing with children's lives. It's not a joke. It's not funny. When I was a principal for a little while, you try to put all these things into place, things that are common sense things that just, to me, that are foundational. That, the children have a way to express themselves. The children have a place to go or a way to manage when they're having a bad day. That the materials are here, that the teachers are trained, that all these different things that go into place. That you have a relationship with the parents. All these things that you would think happen at every school. Especially you think that happens at charter schools because that's how they market it. And it's not necessarily the case. Because a lot of it's political, in my opinion, a lot of it's political. A lot of it is, there must be some financial gain. That's what I'm wondering. Where's the financial kickback to somebody? Because it doesn't seem like the children are getting served. Not to say that no kid at a charter school can do well. Kids are kids. You can put a kid with a chalkboard and a chalk and a book and a piece of paper and a pencil, and they can learn reading, writing, and math. But not all children. And I think that if they're going to have a charter, if we're going to use that system, then it needs to be fair, it needs to be systematic, and we need to make sure that we're monitoring the progress or the effectiveness of those schools.
How are charter schools different from magnet schools?
Well, magnets tend to work under the umbrella of the school district. It's still a public school. They just focus on a particular thing, like either, like STEM or arts or, they have some that are preparing kids to be physicians and for teachers and things like that. But it's still a public school. It's just they have a particular focus, unlike a charter school, which is not technically a public school. It's not a public school. And so they have different rules altogether. Magnet schools still have to follow the rules of public school because it's still a public school. They do have other focuses, though, and usually in the curricular area. That will be the difference, but the rules will still be the same. And just quickly piggybacking on what she said, one of the reasons I said I have applied with church schools, but one of the reasons I have not gone is security. There was only one of them that I looked at that pays into the Social Security system or teacher security, Social Security. Only one of them does. It also has a union, but that's just one. And so if I walk away, it's just you walk away with nothing. It's basically starting all the way over.
So, many of the charter school advocates that I have spoken with have said that charter schools are public schools, that there are public charter schools and there are private charter schools. What are your thoughts on that? What makes a public school a public school?
There are public charter schools, like the school that we shared the space with was a public charter school. But I could start a public charter school, right? So you and I can get together, we can come up with a charter, we can come up with a system, we can present it, we can get, I think you have to bring it to the board or whoever, and then you can start a charter school if they approve your charter. Then that could be a public school, will be under the arm. And then there are some private ones too. But even the public charter schools, they're not, public land and resources have to be shared, say, for the district I'm in. So we might have a charter school within that district, but they're not beholden to the school board. They're beholden to, say, the state or the county or somewhere else, but not the school board. So, yeah, it's public because they have rights and everything, and they're under the state or the county or whatever. So, yeah, that's public, but it's not necessarily the same as being under a district or a school board.
So they get federal and state funds.
I think they get, I know they get state. I don't know if they get federal. Do they get both?
I would have to double check on that, but I believe that funding was made available to them through the No Child Left Behind Act.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. So I probably should have asked this at the beginning, but please tell me a little bit about like how long you've been teachers and how you have seen things change as the charter school industry has grown.
20 long years. 20 years. It just seems so strange because I swear in my head I'm only 25, so I don't know how I could have been there for 20 years if I'm only 25. I don't know. But I was a young teacher.
So in 98, there really weren't a lot of charter schools, right?
There is, and it did happen before, but not on the scale that it happens now. There is
I'll cut that part out.
What happened?
Sorry, wrong fight.
Oh, wow.
Oh, be careful.
Go ahead.
Keep going. I'm fine. I'm talking to the empty shirt.
Stop it. That's okay, I'll cut that part out. Please, continue.
It has always happened, but it happens more readily now. It's this game of attendance, because attendance is what drives the money, the bottoms in the seats. And so the charter schools, they take them. Come on in. We'll give you a laptop. Come on in. We're the best. We're going to make you a doctor or whatever. The kids go. They get the ADA. And then come spring break, you start to see it in about February. Those students start trickling in. Oh, okay, it's February. Now, the first couple years, I didn't get it. I get it now. I know. It doesn't even faze me anymore. But they start trickling in. And the closer you get to testing, the more students start showing up all of a sudden. And you're like, hey, what's happening? Well, in order to prove that they're a success, charter schools have to show good test scores. Now, you're good enough to come and fill our seats throughout the year so we can take your money, but you can't take the test under our number. You need to go back to your home school. And typically, these are behavior students a lot of time, kids who, as we had mentioned before, need special services that they are not getting. Just whatever. Just if it's not the cream of the crop, they systematically get sent back to homeschools. So then, but here comes the law, they have to test. Right. So they test under our number. They don't score horribly well or whatever. And their test scores still look cherry because they kept the cream of the crop and returned the rest back to us, who we gladly accept and we do the best that we can with. And that's not a fair system because then, again, we're not comparing apples and apples.
But surprisingly, charter school test scores don't even look that good. A lot of them that I've seen for all this,
there's a lot that have been revoked
expectation. The test scores aren't even that great. So I don't know.
Yeah. But that's what happens. It's this dance. And like I said, it happened before because where we're located, there's a city to the south that, boasts such great things, your city. It boasts such great things. So, they'll go there because it's just to the south of us. And they come on right back. Mm-hmm. And we accept them. And we deal with them. Unlike charter schools who can put you out for whatever reason they feel that they want to. Oh, your mom didn't answer the phone 3 times when we called, so, she's not doing her parent part, you have to go. We can't do that. We have parents who know the school phone number and just will not answer the phone. Mm-hmm. So, it's not fair. It's not fair.
Our system on around is just bad. Like, even the charter school teachers are just struggling. So now they have these kids who come in who don't, aren't on level, like we've all experienced, who have these issues because there are certain charter schools that take students who, who can't graduate or are missing a certain amount of units. So that may be their charter and they might take those kids in. But there's no accountability for those kids either. So those kids come or they don't come, or they can do something online. A lot of them will say, well, you can take your class online and we'll just grade your stuff online. You just have to come 2-3 days out of the week. They have all these options that they can employ that the regular public school, I haven't seen those options in the regular system. But it depends on the charter. They can just pull all those things out. But the teachers there are frustrated too. Some of my friends is they just don't think it's fair, and they don't think they're being effective to the students. Mm-hmm. And they're just, like you said, it's an ADA game. We don't want to kick the kids out because then we won't have money. Then we can't keep our school open. And so the kids know that, and the parents know that. So they don't, some of the kids, they don't come to school, or they don't even do the 4 days they have to come to actually visit the classroom. They don't even show for those 4 days at all. But nothing happens. You meet with them and they give them another 4 days. So I think the system needs some revising, period, public and charter. Mm-hmm. I think we're at a place now where the act of teaching or the skill of teaching is not being allowed to be the priority. We have to focus on so many other things, And teaching is part of that. But great teaching, it can be very simplistic. If you take away all the extra pieces and all the extra noise around it, and if you can start to hold the kids accountable or have time to build relationships with your students, those kind of things, they really matter and they make a big difference. But because we're so cluttered now with what our objectives truly are and what the expectations of what goes on in the classroom, what those expectations are, it's just, teaching has just become very cloudy. And I think that's in public and charter.
I will say she was a great boss because she had, well, I don't know if she had confidence in me, but she pretended like she did. She had confidence in me and she said, I know you know what you need to do. So these are the expectations. You know, these are the rules. This is what the district says we should be doing at this time. Try to follow it because that's the expectation. Get in there and do what you need to do. She took a lot of the regulation off so that I could just get in there and teach. I wasn't always on schedule. I didn't do maybe enough hours of this, that, or the other. But when I tell you, all of my kids learned. Every kid in my class learned last year. Everybody grew last year. My very favorite student, he started the year, 6th grade, at 66 words per minute. That is way low. By December, he was at 122. And I wish I had some kind of, had a magic wand or whatever, but whatever I did, it works. It works. It worked. And he's one such situation. And I think he was close to, or right at 140 by the time we ended the year, which is where his goal was. I have, at the beginning of the year, I had like about 15 or so, 15, 17, somewhere between 13 and 17 kids, 13 and 17 students who had not mastered their multiplication facts, 0 through 12. 100 problems, have to get 80 in 5 minutes, correct. I had 17 that had not mastered that. By the end of the year, I had 2. 2. Did I do everything by the book? Nope. Did I follow the schedule? No, I did not. Not all the time. I tried. I did use some of the computer programs that they asked us to use. I did follow the text, but did I do what I needed to do for my kids? Absolutely. Did I do some drill and kill? Yeah, some. But did I do other things as well? Absolutely. But when you can do what you need to do and meet the kids where they are without a lot of extraneous regulation, and the only reason I say that, I don't mean regulation in a bad way. I think administration, or at least in our district, they do it in a stupid way. I think they want everyone in the same place because it's easier for them to monitor. If everyone stays on the pacing guide, then we know where you're supposed to be. We can monitor you very easily. I have fast kids and slow kids. My kids don't look at the pacing guide and say, oh, I must learn this today. They learn it when they learn it. And obviously mine hadn't learned it because 17 didn't know their multiplication facts. 6th grade. They should have learned that in 3rd grade. So can I be loyal to the pacing guide? Not if I want my kids to learn. So I had to do what I had to do. I taught the curriculum and I did whatever it was that they needed. But because I was not scared that my administrator was going to walk in and ding me for not being on the guide, for not following my lesson plan to the T at the moment, I was okay. And I knew I could go in there and do what I needed to do with the kids. Did I reach everybody? Nope. Did I do every single thing that I could? No, because I had 34. It's hard to touch 34 kids who are in different places. I look back and I feel bad because I see now there was some potential in that one that I couldn't get to. But I had to work through social issues with her and other stuff. But I know if I could have got to the education stuff, I could have got to her. She had it. She had that potential. But it's hard with 34 kids. And it's hard if I have to try to stay on this particular plan. And especially sixth grade. Sixth grade does not sit well with plans because I have kids that come in emotional, can't talk, I can't do anything with you when you're in that state. And you know teenagers, that preteen brain, that's just the whole world. So I can't always stay on pacing. And then we had a lot of school shootings this past school year. I can't just come in and stay on pacing. We're talking about kids not too much older than them who went to school and then died. I have to address that. They know this is happening. Can I stay on pacing, guide? Nope. But my principal came in and we had the conversation together. We talked. We didn't think about pacing. We thought about what was best for those kids. And that's a great boss to have when, yes, we do want academic success and we push, and she pushed hard for academic success, but she also knows that there is a whole child that needs to be attuned to.
So the issue is the simple humans are humans. So when you talk about students do well when they feel safe, when they feel appreciated, when they feel like you respect what they're doing and they're not scared to try, I feel like teachers feel the same way. Teachers are the same way. You have to respect them as a professional. And no, they may not know everything, but they know quite a lot. They're the ones in there teaching. And I would be a fool, in my opinion, to go in and create all these guidelines for somebody that's been teaching for 20 years and put them in a box. It would be better for me to say, go ahead and teach it. These are the parameters. And I was in there. She says I was a good principal. Most people probably won't think I was. Because I was in there every day. And I was in classrooms like every day, all day. But I wasn't in there to judge and to check off or whatever. I was in there, we would have conversations. Sometimes I would push her and say, you know what, it's coming forward. You got to let them go. Do this project, let it go. Let's see if they do it. And she would scream or say that. And I would say, just train for tomorrow. It's going to be loud. Just let it be loud. And then I'll go and check on her. But it wasn't, but that wasn't anything special. That's treating people with respect, having a respect for people's professionalism, getting to know your staff, just like getting to know your students are important. So they know when I come in that I'm not there to get you or check you or you can't make a mistake. That God forbid your child is receiving an award at 9:00 and you can't be late to school because, you got to miss your child's award. And I was like, well, why are you missing, go see your child's award and we'll take care of things and come back. Don't abuse it, but be there for your child. Have a life. Go home after a certain time. Go home. It's okay, so that you can come back refreshed the next day. If I felt like it was a really hard week, I would just try to bring donuts in or something like that in the morning so that they could say, I see you, just like you would do for your students. It's just the same thing, I see you. I see that you worked hard. I see that you're trying. And this was a tough week. And so this is that. And they did well with that. I don't understand why we don't have respect for educators. And we always set so many strong parameters around them, like you don't have a brain. Of course you do. And then when you allow them the freedom to teach and to make a mistake and you're in there with them and you laugh with them. Because when I was in there with one teacher, she was very nervous. Every time I came, she would jump. And we would laugh about it. And she was doing a math problem on the board and she was just really nervous because I was in there. And she did it wrong. And one of the kids called her on it and said, it's wrong. And then she looked at me and I looked at her and we just laughed. And she's like, well, yeah, I made a mistake. And then We went and we fixed it together and with the child. And sometimes you make mistakes and it's okay. You know, you don't have to be correct all the time. It was a new grade level for her, and you guys know how it is to teach a new grade level math. She was from second grade to like a fifth grade teacher, and she made a mistake. But it doesn't mean she's stupid. It doesn't mean she doesn't know how to teach. It doesn't mean any of that. It just means she made a mistake. And I think that if we can get into a place to where we focus on good teaching and what good teaching is, a lot of these things will take care of themselves. But that is contrary to kind of like the culture of education in the moment. I don't know when teachers became such bad guys and idiots and, you know, things like that. I don't know where it comes
that's
from.
wrong with the world. If there's a problem, well,
Right.
When it became a political football.
Right.
And when industry wanted to
That's
take
exactly
over
what
the
it is.
curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
And they want it so that they can have the people that they need for their industry.
Yeah.
So they want
Absolutely.
the curriculum to
Absolutely.
reflect what they need.
Right.
And Rick will tell you that that's his big thing. He's a little more conspiracy theory than I am, but his thing is they know exactly what they're doing.
They do.
We are creating our class of worker bees. We are creating our class of, no offense, McDonald's workers, our retail service people, that we're systematically creating this caste system, these people, these groups.
I believe that. Because if it was about, because I went into administration thinking it was about numbers, right? Because this is what I thought. Let's talk. You know, these test scores, this ABA, this is how you prove that you're a good school. This is how you prove that you're successful. You get this, you know, you raise your test scores by this. The kids are performing at this level. The attendance is correct. All these different markers. So I love that. That's my personality. I like a little marker and all that give me a goal. So I'm like, yes. So when we hit the marker, you would think it would be like, yeah, you know, you hit the marker. But no, it was never about that to begin with. Because the markers were hit and there weren't any, not that you need celebration, but there was no like support. Matter of fact, it was support taken away. And so I think that was the biggest surprise to me, because I was thinking, oh, okay, well, maybe these schools need to get the test scores up. And this is how you do it, you know? So let's do those things. But that wasn't the case. So it's not about that. It's something bigger than these fake markers. And I think it has to come back to some sort of privatization, some sort of money, some sort of system, because it's not about student learning, because we know how to teach children.
And there is a base of knowledge that you need to have.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have to be expert in everything. You need to know where to find the information.
Yes.
It used to be the encyclopedias, okay? So now it's your phone.
Yeah.
But it's basically Wikipedia, which is an encyclopedia, but you have to know how to phrase the question to find out what it is you want to
And
know.
all your sources that you're using, because anybody can put any content on the internet. And that was just one of those things that I had to teach. You can't just go online, ask a question, and think that the answers that come up are just good. Because it depends on who's paying for that website, because then that information is going to be slanted in their favor or against their opposition or whatever. And you got to be careful with all of that. You never know. Because again, I do believe there are some behind the scenes things going on. I'm not full conspiracy theorist, but I do believe there are some things, because truly, if you look at our society, you cannot operate without those different levels. If everybody is fully well educated, are they going to want to work at McDonald's?
So
housekeepers?
social engineering.
Yeah. I guess. Yeah. They don't want illegal immigration, but then that's That's the source. That's that work source. I'm sorry. I'm tickling into something a little more political, but it is all of it. But education is so political now. It's not just, hey, what do these kids need anymore? It's, what does this person want to see? These people want to see, those people, and some of them are board members. Some of them are using the district for political footholds to move up. Some of them, a lot of them, are in the charter school arena wanting to come in and, take the public school, take the money out of those children's mouths, out of their education. But you just gotta be careful, because it's not just education. I mean, it is for me, but I think that's what makes it hard, because I don't care about the politics. I don't care about who or whatever. I need these kids to be able to get a job and take care of themselves and be positive, contributing members to society. That is my only concern when I go to work each day, is how can I touch that child and make them a better person and a better person in our community. That's it, and that's all. And that's what makes this job hard for me, is because I don't want to play the game. I have been told several times, oh, you'd make a great principal. I don't want to go into administration, especially not in my district, because it is so political. It's games. You have to say what they want to hear. You have to do that. And if I become a principal, I have to lead my school in the way that I think it is best for my students. And you can see it in my district. One side of the town is different than another side. One side has more residences and families and generational families. One side has a lot of foster care homes and group homes, different groups of kids. And you can't say that this is the mandate and expect this group and this group to do it and get the same results. I have to do something different for that different demographic. They have different needs. But as an administrator, that wouldn't be my job, not in my district. It's to babysit them and enforce whatever the policies that the district wants. That's how I see it. I don't know, she might say something different. And I don't want to do that. I want to do what I feel is the best for my students, for my staff, for my school. And you can't always do that and keep your job. I have a lot of ideas about innovation. Like, my daughter's in private school. Those kids, as I look at them and get to know her friends, they're not that different than the kids in our district, in our inner cities. They're really, really not. They're really not. So the same things that they do in that private school, I try to do in my classroom, in my limited way with the regulations that I did have, and they loved it. I tried to do more project-based learning, more hands-on, less talking, you do it. Figure it out. We made solar ovens and they enjoyed it. And not only because they got to build it and, melt marshmallows, but then I actually gave them a second chance. I said, okay, we've done the solar ovens. You saw what happened or didn't happen with your marshmallow. Now, how are you going to adjust your oven to make it work better? And light bulbs. Oh, yeah, do you have some more of that? And they were in it. And this is one of those projects she was telling me to take my hands off and stop talking so much to them and stop controlling it and just let the chaos do its job. And it was a little noisy, and that's not my forte really, but I let it go. But when I did, and I saw what they did, because I let it go, when I said, well, what do you think you need to do? And now I've forgotten my point. But that's what they do a lot of. And, yeah. So what they want me to do is go through the textbook and read it and make them take notes and do Cornell notes and then do a quiz online and then no. I gave it to them. They did it. They revamped it. We did read about it, but they did so much better and they were much more engaged with the hands-on and me stepping back.
Well, they ruin the confidence of students and teachers to me, and administrators. A lot of people don't have the confidence because this is fake judgment system that is very fake. So if I can build a solar of it and explain it and write about it, that's great. Now, if I don't show that on the assessment, that doesn't mean that I'm not smart. It just means that I didn't show it on the assessment. So these kids take these assessments and they get so scared because it means so much. Somebody told them that it means so much. So these kids are stressed out and they take the test or they don't want to take it. We had kids who just refused. They did not want to take that test because they were scared of it, because they were scared of what it would mean. And I see the opposite at my daughter's school. It's private school. They don't prep for that test at all. They don't even talk about the test. They do a regular teaching throughout the year. There's no stress. They come to the test. They do maybe like go over a little bit like a week before, and then they take the test, and then the kids don't care. I mean, and the kids do well. And I don't think it's because the teachers are doing anything unique. I really don't think that. I think the teachers I've seen in our district in a lot of ways are better than the teachers that I see at the private schools. What I do see, though, is that they have freedom. They have respect. They can take risks and chances. The kids are more comfortable because it's not that, like, judgment over you all the time. And I think if we take that away, then I think we'll see a lot better. But what we do, or whoever this person is, the state or, I don't know, Trump, no, I'm just playing, not Trump, but president or wherever it comes from, it's like this idea of what makes a good teacher and what makes a bad teacher, what makes a good school and what makes a bad school, all these things, they don't matter. Because the charter school is not our enemy school. You know, this is a system that is put into place. So whoever's at the charter school, whatever they do, I'm sure they're trying to do their best. Teachers tend to be teachers. Well, most of them are trying to do their best wherever they are. So the system is the problem, but the teachers get bad mouth. The students get judged, but it's not the students. Because my daughter can do well every day of her life, go in on testing time and bomb it, and that doesn't mean that she's not smart. You can teach extremely well all year long, or for 20 years. In 1 year, the kids don't perform well, and all of a sudden you're like loser teacher. Like, I had a friend her kids scored, what was 80th percentile? And I was like, wow, that's crazy. Like 82, 83. The principal told her that she needed to make a 10-point growth for the next year. And she was spending the summer like stressing out. Like, how am I going to get from 88 to 98? I said, don't do that. 88. Why are you trying to get 98th percentile? Who told you that you have to grow 10 more points? That's stupid. Relax. Cultivate what you're doing. You don't have to be at 98%. What are you going to do? Whip these kids or whatever? If they grow, then that's great. You're going to have a new group of kids. You're going to start over and you're at 88. That's fine. But 30%. I'm saying, but you know what I mean? She was doing it. I mean, she had a principal that was like on them. And she was stressing out and she had health issues. And she was working all the time, and she was calling me upset every day about she can't get this done, and this kid, and the kids were stressed, and they were just on these in my mind, these poor kids who are in the third grade. And I mean, and your life is on the line for this test. It's ridiculous. It's
Come here for sexies.
Let me stop here for a second, too, because I have not actually ordered the pizza.
I know, and I was just thinking about that, but I wanted to ask her, I know this is educators, but since we brought up the school, so before you took the ERB, see, they don't take the state test because she's a private school, but they do a standardized test. They do the ERB, I guess just so they can show, because they have a benchmark. They do, yeah. Because and because they're a high school, so they have to have accreditation and all that kind of stuff. So they do ERB. But before the test, did they talk about it a lot? Did they stress you out? Was it like, okay, we're at test prep time, and you know, was it like a big thing, or was it just like, okay, testing is coming up, and what? How was it presented? do a lot of test prep at school? Like, what was it like?
For the ERB
And or finals?
either finals.
It wasn't like super stressful. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, finals, ERBs, alright, everyone, no more anything, no more fun, everyone's studying. No, it wasn't like that. I mean, like, yes, they gave us a lot of like practice quizzes and tests for the like both ERBs and finals, so we knew for both what was going to be on the test. But no, in class they gave us a good amount of time of practice. I mean, we were still learning other stuff, but not as much as usual. So we got test prep and tests, and then usually for homework, that's what we had to do, was study for the tests. So, like, in class, we would learn everything, and she would, like, give us notes, and, like, it was optional to study for that, but really the whole, like, for, like, the week before, for homework, it was studying for the ERBs and finals.
So like a week before you had to do it, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. That's all. We were just talking about it. That's all.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah,
And
that's
I think that was kind of our experience for our generation too. Is that we just
Testing's
got,
coming.
we had
Okay.
maybe some pre-tests,
Yeah.
and then we went into
But not us. Oh, no.
the state
Mhm.
testing or whatever,
We have
and it wasn't every year either, was it? It was like the odd years.
It's like, yeah,
every couple of years, every
other
It's
year.
like the odd grades, I think, is when we did it.
And you wanted to do well. You were proud of your scores.
Mhm.
I remember I was very proud of my scores.
because I just wanted to see how I scored.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm reading at 7th
Yeah,
grade,
right.
3rd month.
Oh, yeah,
That's what I want. It was never about teacher judgment or student judgment. I just wanted to see what level I was
Yeah,
doing on this
exactly.
year. At the end of this year, I'm a year and a half over. That's all I ever wanted to see.
Right.
It was no pressure.
It was kind of a matter of pride,
Yeah.
more than anything else.
But no, they have taken their time to write out a series of practice tests for 10 weeks prior to testing. That is priority to start doing your test prep. I know I didn't teach a lot of content because there was a lot of mandatory test prep time. And yes, there is some test prep that needs to go into it, but my theory is if you're teaching fully throughout the whole year, then there should be no need to stop and focus on the test throughout the year.
Yeah.
You do your content, and you do a unit test, and then you do a test or a couple of questions that this is what it might look like on the end of the year test, and this is how we would answer it. Boom, done. There's your test prep. They've seen this standard, and here's the kind of questions they may ask you at the end of the year on that particular standard. Instead of stopping my teaching 10 weeks before the test even happens to start just drilling down. Why?
Well, you have to build capacity like we try to do with the students. Humans are humans, right? So if you want them to be able to pass this test, you want to teach them, you want them to practice, they might bomb it, but that's all right. We'll learn from it. We'll move on. Same things with teachers. So you want the teachers to be able to teach a certain way to get a certain outcome. You say, okay, this is what we're going to do. You're going to try some things. You're going to take the test. This didn't work. Let's come together. Let's talk about it. And let's see what we can change and, and put those things into place. And that tends to work from my perspective. It's because you own it, because you understand it. Now, when somebody comes from the district and is taking over your day and your schedule and say, stop, do this instead, you don't even have a chance to you don't even know why you're doing it. I know some teachers who were following it, they didn't even understand the math concept. Anyway, they were just doing it the way that the paper said do it, and they didn't have any understanding themselves. But God forbid they are able to ask a question or stop and not do that part and maybe put another part in there instead, or take some more time to understand it. They don't have that. They don't have that chance. So that's unfortunate.
Yeah, so stop your thing.
We're at an hour right now. So I'm going to go ahead and pause it or stop. All right, break's over. Woohoo! Okay, so we're going to continue our discussions on the pros and cons of charter schools, and we're going to talk about, because I know you said you had 20 years, and I'm not sure if you said how many years you have.
A little bit more than 20 years.
A little more than 20 years. So you have seen from a time when we had almost no charter schools to a time when we have a lot of charter schools. And charter school legislation allows them to pop up in any district. They have the right to do this. You can write a charter. You can start a school. And in that, they are able to take certain funds and resources from state funding, from federal funding. So what has been the impact on public schools as charter schools are now allowed to take this funding and these resources?
Well, the thing is, we have to do the same, if not more, with less. Because when the students go to the charter school, the money goes to the charter school. That's money for the public that the public school no longer has to serve the students that we do have. And typically, these are underserved communities where we're already underfunded anyway. But then you go to the charter school, then you take more funding from the kids. So then now the funding is gone. But then, as I said before, here comes February, March, April, and they're back. Now we have more kids to serve, and we still don't have the funds. Because by that point in the year, I believe it's done. Funding, the final allocation of money is set. They're going to get what they're going to get. We're going to get what we're going to get, but we still have to give them a whole set of books. We still have to provide them lunch and every single thing else. But the money that was provided for that is now gone, has now been allocated elsewhere. So the school, who was already underserved, is even more underserved with more students, because now they're kicked back from the charter school, and now we have to, and we gladly do it. We do. We take care of everyone who comes to us, because that's what we do. And I think that's one of the things, as we were saying earlier, because teachers in charter schools just want to do the best that they can. Teaching is not a profession that you go into just because, or lightly, and you certainly don't stay. If you don't have some kind of heart for kids, desire to do right and desire to do well, you don't stay in education. It's not a walk in the park. This is not that kind of job. And so everybody is just trying to do the best that they can. And again, when we had the recession and they cut class sizes and we lost teachers, we lost good public school teachers. They needed a job. A lot of them went to the charter schools. But what can you do? You have to take care of your family. You're an educator. You want to teach kids. Here's that opportunity. So I never knock charter schools, and I don't knock teachers. It's not fair. It is not equitable, financially or otherwise. It is just not fair. Now, if they feel like charter schools can do a good job because they have these abilities, you can do this, 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 and this, give the public school that ability. If they're going to take some hands off, some regulation off, and that's what allows them to flourish and do so well with kids, allow us to do that. What's the problem? What's the issue? And if they're so good, why is it separate? If that's what it takes to educate kids, then let us do it too. Because I promise you, it's going to be great. We're going to do well, but it has to be equitable. And it is not equitable. That's the issue with charter schools. It is not equitable. And as more businesses and corporations move into it, it becomes less about educating kids and more about the business and about the money. And anytime your focus is money, you're not doing what's right for kids. Your mind has to be on kids. What is it that this kid needs? These kids need. What is best for kids? Well, once it's a business, that's no longer your focus, because it's business. But education is not a business. These are people's lives. These are generations to come. These are the kids who are going to grow up and take over and take care of us when we're old. What kind of kids do we want to raise? What do we want our future generations to do? And that's what I think about when I go into the classroom and when I teach and when I talk and when I give real life examples. I'm asking myself, who do I want these people to become? And am I leading them in that direction, or am I stifling that? But I think at the end of the day, teachers, whether they be public, private, charter, or elsewise, 99.9% of them, all they want to do is just teach kids. They want to teach kids and make a difference. I really believe that.
Did you want to weigh?
When I think about resources, I think about people with resources for education. They talk about pencils, paper, crayons, balls. But the resources that are hurting are human resources. And I think that when we start talking about, you talk about charter school, this is what they put on their thing. They put their charter, we believe in so-and-so. And then the next statement is teacher to student ratio. If you ever look at it, it's always teacher to student ratio. And they like to say, we're 18 to 1, or we're 20 to 1. And your public school is 36 to 1, right? And when they do that, a lot of times people think that means for every teacher, that's how many students. But it may not be a teacher. It may be counselors, specialists, different people that support the site. So for every so-called teacher, those many students. So when I see a charter school that boasts to be 22 to 1, and I'm going to work and we're 36 to 1, and I think to myself, they have a chance to not even teach some of these students, and we have to teach all of them. But we need counselors. We need aides. We need bilingual aides or support. We need a lot of these resources to teach these children that have been abandoned or kicked out or encouraged to leave charter schools. Right, we need those things, and those are the resources that are hurting. When we hear on TV that, you have 36 to 1, if it was any other job and I was doing 20 items, I was supposed to be in charge of 20 contracts. Now you tell me I have 40 contracts or 36 contracts. There would be a raise. There would be time. There would be support, maybe some administrative support, something, because that is double the work. We talk like just because you teach, like it's the old way where you stand there and you just teach and kids are just standing there with a pencil just waiting to write down what you say or something. That's magical. But in real life, teaching is work. It's time on task. It's time with the students. It's a lot of work. And you're doubling my work because you don't want to hire an additional person. That's a resource. That other teacher is a resource that we need. There's no real reason why classes that were 25 to 1 or whatever, up to 36, 38 to 1, and no additional support. The schools have less counselors, less nurses, less administration. When I was a principal, we needed an AP. We needed help. I mean, we needed more secretarial staff, the amount of work, people who greet the parents. We didn't have people who worked with the parents. And that is critical when you have a very transient student population or community. But when you have to share that money, say with a charter school, that money is not there. And it's not like we never had that. There was a time when I first started teaching, we had an aide in the classroom. Mm-hmm. We had counselors. We had a full office staff. We had, we had people who worked with the PTA and who were liaisons and things like that. And those things are not guaranteed anymore. And you wonder, where did that money go? And at the same time, I can put in a charter that in our charter, we have low class sizes. Or in our charter, we have all these things and make all these parameters, and I can make sure that we have that. But in the regular public school, we don't have those same resources. And I'm with you. I don't see why they just can't combine it. If these are things that we think are good for teaching, then take your public school and say, this public school, we're going to have this, or we're going to add this element to it and try it and see how it works. Why does it have to be separate? And if it has to be separate, it just makes you wonder what the big picture is. Again, I just think this country in general, it's about creating enemies when there are none. We're all kind of on the same side. And while the rich get richer, and we all fight each other. And the people aren't getting what, students aren't getting what they need. And now we're fighting over jobs, and everybody's the enemy. Because you know what? I don't have what I need in public school, it's the charter school fault. Oh, we don't have what we need at the charter school, it's the public school fault. Or you should go and you should fight one way or another. You should fight against bills and things like that. But each other, people, that's just a game. Because somebody's getting paid, or there's somebody profiting off of this. And it's not the teachers or the administrators or the students or the parents. It's not the community. And another thing I want to say is just that this is really serious, because education doesn't have to be free. Public education wasn't always public education. Everybody doesn't always get a chance, just historically, to go to school for free and be educated. And some people see it as a right, and some people don't see it as a right. And it's breaking down public schools is a scary thought. Because who decides who gets educated, how people get educated? I don't know. It just makes me more concerned. I think it's a bigger picture. Because everybody thinks that private sector can solve these issues. But when you're worried about money, a lot of times social situations or people aren't as valuable as money. So I don't know how that will work out.
And I think we as a country are moving in a bad direction. We or the founding fathers, or whoever, said public education, free and appropriate public education, because we know if our society as a whole is educated, our society as a whole, do better. So we do free education so that the whole society benefits from having an educated society. But if the charter schools have what they want, and it's not a free education anymore, because that's really where it's going to go to. If you want the good school, you have to go to the charter school. Yes, you take your public voucher or your public money or whatever, and you go, but then you have to pay a little bit more. And for some, that will be fine. They'll pay a little more, they'll get the education. And again, where does that leave the rest of us?
Yeah, the voucher won't be enough.
It won't be enough. It will never be enough for a good education, because, again, the conspiracy theory, we have to have those different levels. We cannot have everybody. But then the scariest thought of all is, even still in countries in Africa and Mexico, South America, if you can't afford to pay for school, you stop going after, third grade, fourth grade? Public education stops after that. That's what made America a different kind of country and a wonderful place, because everybody got educated up to 12th grade. It does not happen everywhere. And if things are continue to turn the way they're going towards everything being monetized, and we're screwed. Because we're going to be back in that place where if you can't go to school after 4th grade, you just don't get an education anymore. Well, and that's where we're headed.
We saw this before with preschools, our daycares. I remember when I had my first daughter and we needed a daycare, it was one price. And then people were, there was some sort of vouchers that people who were low income received some sort of voucher, and so that they can go back to work. I think it was like work from home or whatever it's called, some sort of voucher they got. And anyway, they could use that voucher to pay for daycare for their child, which was good. But what did everybody do? They raised the prices of the daycare so that they can get more money from the state. So that made me, as middle class, have to come out even more money to pay for the daycare. I was lucky I was able to do that, but some people couldn't afford to do that. And I see like that's kind of where we're going. So as soon as there's a voucher, and as a state or the country, decide that, okay, we're going to give a certain amount of money for each child, then there are going to be schools popping up everywhere. And they'll take that money and they'll raise that money. And then, if you don't have it, then you just can't go.
And we're moving away from what we as a country are supposed to be with the free and appropriate public education. That it's going to be moving away from us all being well-educated citizens that are able to contribute to our society. That was the point. We all need to be educated, but it's not going that direction. And more and more, and I don't say his name in this house, he who shall not be named, the division is getting bigger. We're not getting closer. Things are not getting better. It's getting worse, and it's scary because, as I said, my child is not the special interest. Black female, smart. I don't know what this world is going to have for her if we keep going the way we're going. And like I said, I feel an immense amount of guilt. I used to feel a lot of guilt about putting her in a private school, but I have to do what's best for my child. And right now, it's the best. It's what's best. It's the best option out there for her. I want her to be in public school because I think there are some awesome public school teachers, wonderful public school teachers. It's just the system that's broken, and the charter system is not the fix, or not the charter system in the way it's working now is not the fix. It's just going to make the problem worse. So
some of these schools will take the vouchers and then they'll declare bankruptcy and you just wonder what are you supposed to be doing there?
And they don't think these things through.
no.
It'll just be a system, and then people will be without a year of education, and we'll be scrambling to fix it and things like
The
that.
one that yells the loudest about how great this is, that's so bad, but this is great, come on. And people just want what's best for their kids. They want their kids to get a good education, that's all. And I so get that. But in the meantime, it's systematically undercutting everybody else. My taxes still go to public school. I still support the public school, but my child just happens to not. But
well, the money coming into the school is supposed to pay for what the school plan is. The school plan is supposed to be devised by the parents, the administrators, and the teachers. And in high schools, they also have some student representation on these councils. So you would think that whatever the charter school is offering, that perhaps within their school plan, the public school could also incorporate some of these pluses. And so, I'm not exactly sure why these charters seem so popular with people.
Well, it things cost, right? So for like when we did our school site plan, some things they won't even fund. So suppose we say we want to spend money on a counselor. And that was one of the things that a lot of teachers wanted, counseling. And we write that into the plan. Well, the district has to decide to hire counselors.
Oh, and they're not?
No, because there are only a few for high school. Oh. So we can write it in our plan and have money set aside for a counselor. But we may not be able to get a counselor. Where a charter school can say we want a counselor and they can hire from outside. There's no district. There's no board. There's just them and whatever they decide to do. They want to hire a counselor, they hire a counselor. And so be it. So there's a lot of strings that we have. And then there's a lot of things you have to, build. So if I say I want a charter school and it's going to be a technology charter and we're going to have computers for every child or cell phones for every student, they have a lot more freedom on how they spend their money. I would have to get approval for what kind of computers, and we have to buy them from this place, and then we have extra for setting it all up, and then using the building, and it's just a lot of different steps. So you can imagine if we just set up a school here, we can say, we need 5 computers. We can get online, buy 5 computers, and we'll have them here. Amazon will deliver them tomorrow, and then we'll get going, right? It's just not that simple. And a lot of things that we want, they may not even be available. or they may not come on time. Like I remember at my last school where I was a principal before this one, we wanted specialists. We needed specialists. We needed specialists, technology specialists, and English language specialists. So we had it in our plan, but we didn't get the specialists till January, February, because
half the school year.
Yeah.
So it's functioning, air quotes, understaffed. Not that the money wasn't there, not that the staff, it just system.
And plus, you don't have total say. So being a principal, it's not like czar. You have to do what the superintendent would like you to do, and they have goals. So you're under this huge umbrella. So the state has goals, and then the county has goals, and the superintendent has goals. And as a principal, you're really just handling the goals of, that are passed down to you. So if I say, oh, we want to be an arts school, the community, everybody wants to be an arts school. You can't just do it just because people say. They're not going to fund it. They might fund this one school over here. No, this is the art school. This is the school that's going to be the art school. Your school can't be an art school for whatever reason. So, but a charter's different. So, but the money, you have money. You just can't spend it the way you would like.
Okay, so we're kind of wrapping up. We've got a few more minutes left, so I'm going to throw out one more question, kind of a two-part question, which is, what do you think needs to happen to marry the pros of both systems? So, and do you think that as the system stands today with the charters and the traditional public schools, are we offering equitable learning experiences to all students? Go ahead.
No. And that's not. No, it's not. It's not equitable. And it's interesting because I saw a picture of a classroom from before the Industrial Revolution, and it's the same stinking row. I mean, up until about 10, not even 10, about 7 years ago, we really started talking about seating them differently in conversational groupings. But, it used to be rows and quiet, but we're not teaching for that generation. We're teaching that same way. But that was, I'm sorry, because all the thoughts are coming together.
No, this is just for your school district, because we were doing that back in the 80s.
When did we start conversational grouping? When we started reading first? Back in 2002, 2000?
Yeah.
Wow.
We were taught that way at our school, but we weren't allowed to actually converse.
No, because we were still quiet.
We were staring at each other
passing
and not facing the chalkboard directly, but we weren't actually allowed to talk to our peers during class.
But we still, too much is still that way. We're not progressing with time as much. How do we marry both systems? The number one thing, keep politics out of it. Mm-hmm. Because that is one of the biggest downfalls to education. We need educators, not in the government part, but we need a secretary or superintendent of education. But it should not be anything political. It should not be I guess we have to vote for him, but still, I don't know. The thing of it is, it needs to not be political. When education is by itself, of itself, for itself, just about education, looking at only what is in the best interest of these kids, that is when things will change. Because it's going too much to politics, which means who has the most money, and that's who controls the narrative, who controls where they're going. Like you were saying, industry is controlling a lot of curriculum, and that's where it's going. When we make education just about education, not about politics, not about industry, not about anything else, but what these kids know to be successful human beings and to be educated, when that is our focus and we take politics out, that's when it's going to be good. Because I don't think charter schools are the devil. The management of it is the devil. That is where the problem is. Because the charter schools that can do those things and when they're successful, allow the public school to do those things. But stop making it political. Stop making it us and them. Make it kids. And then we're going to start to see change. Then we're going to start to see success. Because right now, everybody's losing. Everybody's losing. Charter schools are not doing, some are doing okay. They're not doing fabulous. Public schools, some are doing okay. They're not doing fabulous. It's too much outside nonsense instead of us focusing on what we need to focus on, which is educating the kids. Period. Sorry.
Do you want to wrap us up?
We have differing opinions sometimes, but
yeah, I mean, I like a little bit of the political piece because I think there needs to be a little pressure and a little bit of accountability. And I don't know how to work that, but I think that's healthy. The fact that we have goals and we have things there. What I don't like is the privatization feel. I'm not have any proof that it's privatized, but it feels very privatized. The marketing that's being done about education, that is straight out of the private sector handbook, where you create this enemy, whether you're talking about a code and you put on TV this phlegm monster, that this ugly enemy that makes you change your mind and want to attack this thing, that this constant communication that the teachers are this enemy or this horrible people or these people who are just taking money and not doing a good job, that kind of marketing that comes from the private sector and selling, that's very evident that is selling something or selling an idea, I think is horrible. And I think that needs to be taken out, first of all. But what can be combined together? I mean, I think the best thing would be to try to provide some sort of choice within a public school setting, like magnet schools or things like that. And maybe giving schools a little bit of say about what they can do at their school site, which we're on the field, we're on our way in that way. Like, you can get your school site council together and create your school site plan and spend your money. That sounds good. Doesn't necessarily work all the way. But those are some things that are kind of headed in the right direction.
Yeah.
And also that I personally think that we should have more trade schools because we're not keeping kids from going to college. But the ones who would like to learn a trade should have an opportunity to be able to do that. And we need those skills from some people. Somebody needs to be doing these jobs. And the fact that they feel every child should go to college, well, that just isn't the case. Some of them would prefer doing something else. And that should be open to them.
Oh, do I actually give this back to... I signed the wrong one.
no, I think you said sign that one.
You did? Well, there's no signature line on that one. So I'm going to have to do it over here. I'm doing this terribly. Okay. All right, well, with that, I want to say thank you, ladies, and we can wrap up here and eat some pizza. Woohoo! Okay. Woohoo!